Sensibili on BBC iPlayer.
You're watching BBC One Wales now. The news at 1 with Nina Warhurst and Wales Today with Rebecca Jones
in Belfast.
Today at 1 in, 1 out. A new scheme is set to start which will see migrants return to France in exchange for asylum seekers who've applied legally, but the Home Secretary won't say how many.
We're not going to provide operational information about which numbers, which days that the criminal gangs will then simply use in order to continue to ply their vile trade in human beings.
We'll assess the numbers crossing the channel and ask if the policy will make a difference, also on the programme. TV presenter Jay Blades is charged with 2 counts of rape. He'll appear before magistrates next week. The weight's come off, but what now? New guidance says patients who've had obesity jabs should have structured support to stop them piling it back on. The pass rate for exams in Scotland rises slightly on last year, but advanced higher grades are down on pre-pandemic levels. And meet Team Duck Patrol, the North Yorkshire volunteers protecting a mum and her young on their evening waddles.
On BBC One Scotland at 1 in says she's moved away and doesn't feel safe she's trying to steal her phone. And the clean-up system plans for a greener future for Connors say they're absolutely devastated.
Good afternoon and welcome to the News at 1. The government's latest plan to reduce the number of people crossing the channel illegally will come into force in the next 24 hours. The 1 in, 1 out scheme means that some migrants will be detained and returned to France, while the same number of legitimate asylum seekers who've only applied legally will be accepted by the UK. Well, the Home Secretary has declined to put a figure on how many people will be detained, as our chief political correspondent Henry Zeffman reports. TV presenter Jay Blades has been charged with 2 counts of rape. Mr Blades also appeared before Worcester Crown Court this morning on separate allegations. Our Midlands correspondent Navtej Johal is there. Navtej, what more can you tell us about the latest charge? An independent review into prison capacity in England and Wales says the entire system came close to collapse on several occasions in the last 3 years. The report was written by the former Chief Inspector of Prisons, Dame Annie Owers, who concluded the systemic problems have not yet been solved and have the potential to bring down the entire criminal justice system. The jury in the trial of a schoolboy accused of murdering fellow pupil Harvey Wilgoose has retired to consider its verdict. Harvey was 15 when he was stabbed at All Saints Catholic High School in Sheffield in February. Thousands of homes remain without power in the aftermath of Storm Floris. More than 22,000 properties in Scotland are still being affected after gusts of up to 90 miles an hour brought down electricity lines yesterday. But another 50,000 have now had power restored. Disruption to the rail network is also expected to continue throughout today. The former Arsenal footballer Thomas Partey has appeared in court this morning, charged with 5 counts of rape and 1 of sexual assault. The 32-year-old Ghanaian international denies the charges, which relate to 3 women. Our correspondent Daniel De Simona reports. The UN Security Council will meet in New York later to discuss the fate of hostages still held in Gaza. It comes amid reports that the Israeli Security Cabinet is considering reoccupying the entire territory. Meanwhile, the Hamas-run Health Ministry says that 87 people were killed by Israeli fire in the past day and that 8 people died of hunger and malnutrition. Let's speak with our Middle East correspondent Yolande Nell. And Yolande, how credible are those reports that Israel could actually widen its campaign in Gaza? Yolande, thank you. Thousands of people in Scotland are receiving their exam results today, with the grades in Nationals, Highers and Advanced Highers all being released. Official data shows there's been a slight improvement on last year's results, as our Scotland correspondent Lorna Gordon reports. The time is 16 minutes past 1. Our top story this afternoon. A new scheme is set to begin which will see migrants return to France in exchange for asylum seekers who've applied legally. And the amount of unclaimed premium bond prizes has now passed £100 million, with some payments untouched for decades.
On BBC London, extra support for pedestrians says the screening age for the deceased woman kidnapped to producing electricity and the rare South London waiting tree is reported actually becomes a power station.
New NHS guidance says patients coming off obesity jabs should be given support to help them prevent them piling weight back on. The National Institute for Health and Care Excellence, or NICE, says it's a problem many people face when they stop using the injections. It's calling for structured advice to prevent weight gain. Our health correspondent Dominic Hughes has the story. That report from our health correspondent Dominic Hughes, who joins me this lunchtime. Hi, Dominic. So the drugs themselves have been costed, the weight loss jabs, but aftercare presumably comes at a price too.
Yep.
Dominic, thank you. The reports into the Titan submersible disaster in which 5 people died has strongly criticised the exploration firm behind the mission, Ocean Gate. The craft was descending to the wreck of the Titanic at the bottom of the Atlantic Ocean when it imploded 2 years ago. The US Coast Guard Marine Board of Investigation said that Ocean Gate used intimidation and exploited the system to avoid regulation and to operate outside normal rules. Our science editor, Rebecca Morell, joins us this lunchtime. And Rebecca, this looks like a damning report. OK, Rebecca, going through that detail. Thank you. A Greater Manchester police officer is under criminal investigation for allegedly leaking CCTV footage of a violent brawl involving 2 men and several officers at Manchester Airport last summer. The police watchdog, the IOPC, says it's looking into concerns about the source of a video given to the media. Mohammed Fahir Amaz was found guilty of attacking 2 female police officers last week. Dozens of suspected rioters are still wanted by police a year after disorder broke out across the UK in the wake of the Southport attacks. A website's being set up with details of around 40 suspects wanted across 5 police forces. The National Police Chiefs Council says more than 1,000 have been charged in connection with the riots so far. Commemorations are taking place this week to mark the 80th anniversary of the destruction of 2 Japanese cities, Hiroshima and Nagasaki, using atomic bombs dropped by the United States. It's argued that the 2 bombs, which killed more than 200,000 people, brought the Second World War to an end. But some of those who've survived have spent their lives campaigning against nuclear weapons ever being used again. Our Japan correspondent Shaima Khalil reports. Down with a reminder of our top headlines this afternoon. A new scheme is set to begin which will see migrants return to France in exchange for asylum seekers who've applied legally, but the Home Secretary won't say how many. And a 100th birthday celebration for the D-Day veteran who was captured after storming the Normandy beaches. We will have a full weather roundup in the next half hour. Let's have a quick check-in. Here's Stab. Hi there.
Hi there, Nina. Thanks very much. Good afternoon to you. What a difference a day makes. It was really stormy. A full forecast.
We will. Stab, thank you.
Thanks, Nina.
But now let's return to our main story. The government's latest plan to reduce small boat crossings will come into force in the next 24 hours. The so-called one-in, one-out deal agreed with France means migrants could be detained within days. Another big part of Labour's plans to tackle migration is the pledge to end asylum hotels by 2029. Well, the most recent figures showed there were around 32,000 asylum seekers living in hotels in March. That's down 6% compared to the previous year. The Home Office says fewer than 210 hotels are currently being used to house migrants, and that figure is almost halved since September 2023, when more than 400 sites were needed. And when it comes to money, the Home Office spent an average of £5.77 million a day on hotel accommodation in the year to March, and that figure is down from £8.3 million per day the previous year. Well, the latest migration deal follows an increase in the number of protests being held outside asylum hotels. And our reporter, Ollie Constable, has been speaking to people on both sides of the debate. Still to come on today's programme, we'll be meeting the volunteers donning high-vis to keep a duck and her baby safe on their daily waddle across a busy road. But now on BBC One, it's time to join our colleagues with the news. Where you are.
On BBC London, the actress calling for more to be done to tackle phone thefts. Good afternoon. This year's Escovitch results show attainment rising across the board. What disease should be low? And it's been received their results this morning. We'll tell you about plans for a greener future. The Scottish Government says the figures also highlight a narrowing in the poverty-related attainment gap. Good afternoon, I'm Alice First crime is now reaching unlevels Figures show mobile phones are now being stolen here at a rate of one every 7 minutes. But something really
birthday after his bowel cancer. So the screening age for the disease should be lowered. Matt Dean was a sick bodybuilder short to be diagnosed with the disease at 39, which then spread to his bladder and liver. The Welsh Government says it follows national guidance on screening age for
because our service
Friday and Saturday looks to be largely dry except for on our website and social media, including the Greek parade being held to help keep the memories of a loved one alive. And that's all from us here later. Well, though, it's back to Nina to the rest of the awards. Nina Warhurst.
Back to our colleagues in Salford.
Now, turning 100 is a great milestone for anyone, but for Ken Hay, it's even more remarkable. As a 19-year-old soldier, he stormed the Normandy beaches on D-Day and was captured by Germans. Ken feared he'd never see his loved ones again. But in the last few days, he's been celebrating his centenary with family and friends. John Maguire went to meet him. Happy birthday, Ken. Now, while lollipop men and women are enjoying a well-earned summer break, a different kind of road safety team is hard at work. Volunteer duck wardens have come together in Thirsk in North Yorkshire. Their job, to protect a mum and her ducklings as they take a very sweet but potentially perilous evening waddle through town. Whew, they all made it. Let's check in with the weather. Somewhere under the rainbow, there's Stav. Hi there.
Hi there, Nina. Yeah, and the pot of gold at the bottom of the rainbow. It's been a blustery one out there, but nowhere near as windy in southeastern areas with plenty of sunshine. So it's warming up again, Nina.
Good to hear. Thank you, Stav. And don't forget, you can keep up to date with all of the latest on BBC News Online. Details up at the moment of that damning report that's just been released into the sinking of the Titan submersible. That's all from today's BBC News at 1. Enjoy your day. Bye-bye.
Memories that on a buffer and
live cricket all afternoon as the 100 continues London's Spirit Play of the Invincibles in half an hour in a women's match, followed by the men's tonight at 6 over to BBC 2 Wales from 2:30 for all the action live.
They're just getting better and